Hey everyone, today we're standing in a dimly lit room staring at a phone that hasn't buzzed in 2 days. Your last message is still sitting there. Hey, everything okay? Sent with a little hope and a quiet sense of dread. Her reply, non existent. And your mind is pacing laps like a dog left alone too long in a tiny apartment. And if you think you can control how others feel about you, then maybe that's exactly what you haven't let go of yet. So, before you get too comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you're tuning in from and what time it is over there. Now, turn off the lights, maybe turn on a fan for some soft background noise. And let's begin today's journey together. You think silence means failure? You think her not responding means you've done something wrong or worse that she never cared? But here's a cruel little twist of human psychology. Sometimes people ignore you not because they don't feel anything, but because they're overwhelmed by what they do feel. Or maybe they're testing whether you'll self destruct under pressure. See, women are intuitive creatures. If they feel like you're clinging too tightly, they'll step back just to see how far you'll reach. And if you chase hard, if you send the triple text with a sprinkle of anxiety and a dash of just checking in, she feels it. The tension, the imbalance, the performance. And something inside her shrinks away even if she liked you at first. But if you stay still, really still, she notices something else: your absence. Not your apology, not your explanation, your absence. And that does something entirely different to her nervous system. Philosophers still debate whether we fear loss more than we desire gain, but in dating, this isn't a debate. It's observable, predictable, almost cruelly mechanical. When she senses that you're not trying to win her back, a tiny voice in her starts to whisper, wait, why not? You're not cold, you're just unbothered. You've detached with grace, not to manipulate, but because you're not going to light yourself on fire just to keep her warm. That's the frame. And if you're sitting there thinking, but if I don't say anything, she'll never come back, I'll ask you this. Do you really want a woman who only returns if you beg? Imagine you're a tree. I know, stay with me. And someone walks up, shakes your branches violently, and leaves. You don't uproot yourself and follow them through the forest. You stay rooted, tall, still. And sooner or later, they'll wonder why the shade they once loved is now missing. It's funny we treat modern dating like a customer service chat: fast replies, perfect emojis, constant updates. But you're not tech support. You're not here to resolve emotional issues on demand. Sometimes the most attractive thing you can do, Kavit, is absolutely nothing. Like when you ignore that crocodile-scented sunscreen at the store, the one claiming it's 99% guaranteed to seduce mermaids. You'd be surprised what some men try when she stops texting. Don't be that guy. Just breathe. Let her silence echo. Let it say what it wants. Because if you listen closely, you'll realize it's not rejection. Not yet. It's a question. And the way you answer will define everything that comes next. You pick up your phone again. You scroll. You stare. You delete the draft of another message before it's even sent, something like, hey, just wondering if I said something wrong. The sentence itself feels like a surrender, a slow leak in the tire of your confidence. This is the moment most men fail. Not because they're bad people, not because they're too emotional, but because they panic. And panic is loud. When a woman pulls away and you rush forward to fill the gap, she doesn't see reassurance. She sees instability. She feels like she has to carry the emotional weight that you're supposed to be managing on your own. And once that happens, the polarity shifts. You become the one needing validation. She becomes the one protecting herself from need. There's this old phrase in behavioral psychology: intermittent reinforcement builds the strongest habits. Think about that for a second. When someone gives you attention, inconsistently disappears, then reappears, your mind starts working overtime. And ironically, when you do the same thing in reverse, when you pull away calmly after she ghosts you, you create the exact kind of emotional loop that draws people back in. But if you jump at every breadcrumb she drops, if you reply to her, hey, 2 hours later with a 300-word essay on how much you care, you kill the mystery. You drown the tension. You basically hang a sign around your neck that says, my self-worth depends on this conversation continuing. Philosophers still argue about the nature of self, whether identity is fixed or fluid. But here's something we do know. In relationships, your identity gets tested the moment you stop getting what you want. It's in the silence where your real value is either revealed or shattered. She doesn't need you to become a ghost, but she also doesn't need a digital puppy. Don't bark, don't whimper, just vanish like you've got better things to do. Because here's the truth: no one tells you most men don't get rejected. They disqualify themselves by reacting the wrong way. You know that friend who overshares on the first date talks about his ex, his trauma, his childhood hamster that died in '04. That's emotional flooding. And it's what happens when a man feels threatened by silence. He fills it with noise. And you're going to be different. You're going to laugh a little when she goes quiet. You're going to get coffee with your friend who overshares about his hamster. You're going to put your phone down and walk into the world like it owes you an explanation. Because when you stop chasing something, strange happens, you start choosing. And that shift is magnetic. Here's a quirky observation when a woman pulls away. Most guys respond like someone yanked the Wi Fi cable out of their soul. Twitchy, confused, desperate to reconnect. Don't be a human router. Be the signal that doesn't blink. And if you think she won't notice, think again. She will. She might even text you back just to check if you're still emotionally available. But when she does, don't rush. Don't reward silence with a standing ovation. Remember, she's not a villain. She's just reading your energy. And your job isn't to perform. It's to respond with dignity or not at all. You wake up one morning, sunlight leaking through the blinds, and your first thought isn't her, it's coffee. That's progress. Not enlightenment, but a small win. Because for the first time in days, you're not waiting. You're choosing to move without her permission. This is the power of calm indifference. Not apathy, not bitterness, just not making her silence the center of your emotional weather report. You brush your teeth slower. You dress like someone might notice. You leave your phone on the nightstand and walk out the door like the world still wants you because it does. Calm indifference is magnetic because it signals internal certainty. It tells the world I'm fine either way. And that message, quiet as it is, travels fast, especially to someone who's been used to holding emotional leverage. Philosophers still examine the nature of freedom, whether it's the absence of interference or the presence of self-direction. But in modern dating, freedom is measured by one thing: how little you need validation to feel secure. And calm indifference, that's the clearest form of freedom she'll ever sense from you. You don't ignore her out of spite. You don't withhold attention like a petty magician. You simply understand this one brutal truth: when you overvalue someone who undercommunicates, you teach them exactly how to treat you. So instead, you lean back. You don't fake being busy. You get busy. You don't pretend you have options. You remember that you do. And slowly something shifts. She starts wondering if your silence means disinterest. She replays your last message in her head, not because it was desperate, but because it wasn't. She stalks your Instagram story, checks the time you were last online. Tiny digital breadcrumbs of curiosity. You've flipped the script. Here's a real-world reference: in luxury sales, they train you to walk away from the buyer after the pitch. Not to hover, not to persuade, to let the silence do the talking. Why? Because the high-value customer needs space to feel the tension, and that's when the desire builds. You are the luxury. Here's a quirky little observation. Ever notice how unread messages are more powerful than long conversations? There's something primal about not knowing. It keeps the mind spinning, searching for closure. It's the cliffhanger that keeps them subscribed to the story even if they pretended they closed the book. Now, let's be clear, this only works if it's genuine. You can't pretend to be indifferent while checking your phone every 10 minutes. You can't act cool if your whole nervous system is throwing a tantrum inside your chest. So do the internal work. Go lift. Go build. Go laugh at something stupid with your friends. Go cook something that smells so good even your neighbors knock on the door. Give your life enough motion that her absence feels like background noise, not heartbreak. And when she finally texts back, and she will most do, don't throw a party in your head. Don't turn your calm into confetti. Just smile, take your time, maybe even finish your coffee first. Because you're not here to chase, you're here to choose. And today, you're choosing peace. So, she finally texts back. It's not an apology. It's not a confession of undying love. It's a breadcrumb. Something like, hey or sorry, I've been busy. You read it once, then again, and you already feel your ego waking up from the nap it was pretending to enjoy. But this is your moment, not to prove something, not to punish, but to respond in a way that honors your self-worth and surprises her nervous system. Here's what you say. No worries, I've been good. Hope all's well on your end. That's it. Clean, simple, centered. It doesn't chase, it doesn't sulk, it doesn't pretend. And yet it carries power, the power of a man who doesn't need her response to feel like a man. You want to be the type of presence that makes her wonder why you're so calm, why you didn't call her out, why you didn't ask questions, why you seem different now. Because deep down, she expected drama. She expected resentment. She expected that door she left half open to still be swinging. But you just closed it gently. This line, no worries, I've been good, isn't a script. It's a reflection of a mindset. It's the kind of message that says, I'm still living, still grounded. And no, I wasn't frozen in time waiting for you to come back. Philosophers still debate whether language reflects inner being or shapes it. But in this case, your words are an expression of what you've built internally. That shift from reaction to poise, it's what separates high value men from the rest of the inbox. Now, does this mean she'll fall to her knees and beg for a second chance? Not necessarily, but she'll feel it. The contrast, the shift in energy, and contrast creates curiosity, especially in a world where most guys respond with either neediness or passive aggressive sarcasm. Here's a real world example. Have you ever walked past a dog that doesn't bark at you, doesn't wag its tail, doesn't even flinch, just stares with that quiet, regal calm, like it knows something you don't? That's unsettling in the best way. That's you now. And here's a quirky little observation. There's something about men who don't explain themselves that short circuits modern dating expectations. Like, wait, where's the long paragraph? Where's the emotional essay? Where's the guy trying to prove he's worth the response? He's gone, and now you're here instead. This line: hope all's well on your end is the cherry on top. It's polite without being eager. It's open ended without being vulnerable. It leaves the door cracked without you standing in it. It's a soft goodbye that might become a re entry, or it might be the last thing you say, and that's okay. Because saying less is powerful when you've done more within yourself. So say it, then put the phone down and go live something worth being distracted from. Let's pull back the curtain and talk about why this simple line: no worries, I've been good. Hope all's well on your end, actually works, not magically, not manipulatively, but psychologically. Attraction isn't built on constant presence. It's built on emotional contrast. The gap between expectation and response, between what she thought you'd do and what you actually did. In neuroscience, there's something called a prediction error. It's the jolt your brain gets when reality doesn't match the script it expected, and you just became a walking prediction error. She thought you'd chase. You didn't. She thought you'd lash out. You didn't. She thought you'd vanish in bitterness, but you responded calmly, cleanly with emotional closure, but not emotional surrender. Philosophers still discuss the tension between attachment and autonomy, and this is where those ideas collide. You care, but you're not attached to the outcome. You're present, but you're not desperate. You're available, but not on demand. And to a woman who's used to being the prize, that dissonance creates a very specific kind of intrigue. You're not trying to make her regret ignoring you. You're just showing by your tone and your timing that you don't live in emotional debt. Because most guys operate on two settings: pursue until panic, or ghost out of resentment. You're doing neither. You're still on the map, but not circling her location. Now let's talk about how this lands in her mind. That short, neutral message you sent, it quietly repositions you as a man of self-respect. A man who doesn't play the emotional claw machine trying to yank her attention back with sweet texts and guilt trips. You didn't shame her. You didn't grovel. You didn't use reverse psychology or some viral TikTok line about matching energy. You simply told the truth in a calm tone, and that kind of response resets the entire frame. Think of it like this: if she's in a power position, your calm neutrality is like a mirror. It reflects her behavior back at her, but without drama. And that reflection is often more powerful than confrontation. Here's a real world example when Netflix asks if you're still watching after 4 hours of binging. It doesn't scold you, it just asks, calmly, casually, and for a second you question your life choices. Same with your message. It doesn't accuse, it just exists, and suddenly she's the one doing the questioning. Here's a quirky observation. Emotional detachment in modern dating feels almost suspicious. Like, wait, is he emotionally healthy? Or is this witchcraft? And that's part of the charm. Because when she can't tell if you're unaffected or just evolved, the curiosity alone keeps her interested. That's the invisible game you're playing now, not by being cold, but by being complete. This isn't about tricking her into wanting you back. It's about becoming a man who doesn't abandon himself just because someone goes quiet for a while. Because that version of you, the one who stays solid, stays kind, and stays moving forward, is always attractive, even if she never says it out loud. And in the rare case that she never comes back, well, we'll talk about that next. There's a moment most men miss. It doesn't happen during the silence. It doesn't even happen when she texts back. It happens after. After you've sent your grounded, calm reply. After you've waited without waiting. After she drops a casual follow up like, haha, yeah, things have just been crazy. This is the crossroads. Do you try to revive the old rhythm or do you recognize that the beat has changed? This is when you quietly become the one who walks away first, not to punish her, not to be dramatic, but because something inside you knows if it takes a disappearance for someone to remember your value, then you were never really seen to begin with. Philosophers still examine what it means to possess dignity not as pride, but as self regard. And this is what walking away gives you, a final act of quiet self protection in a world that rewards noise and need. Because the truth is, the door she left open isn't the same door you'd want to walk through anymore. You've changed, subtly but meaningfully. You've tasted what it feels like to stop chasing emotional clarity from someone who was never required to give it. And now chasing it again feels like moving backward. The modern world tells you to fight for love, to hold on, to follow up and circle back. But sometimes the most loving thing you can do for her and for yourself is to let things fade with grace. Here's a real world parallel. Have you ever seen someone at a store keep trying to return an item without a receipt? They keep explaining, negotiating, hoping the manager will break the rules, and eventually they walk away frustrated, still holding something that no longer serves them. You don't need to be that man. You're not returning yourself to a place that stopped accepting who you are. Here's a quirky observation. We're all addicted to closure, and yet the most peaceful people are often the ones who stopped needing it, who learned that unanswered questions don't always need answers, they just need time and distance to lose their power. When she realizes you're no longer emotionally orbiting her, something strange will happen. She might come back harder, she might test the waters again, she might flirt, drop comments, share memes, post thirst traps designed with your name etched invisibly into the pixels. Or she might not. But the point is, you won't care the same way anymore. Because the man who walks away with peace doesn't walk in circles. He walks forward, into the unknown, into better conversations, into women who don't need silence to realize your worth. You're not angry. You're not cold. You're just not available to the same dynamic anymore. And that's what makes you powerful. So when she finally notices the empty space where your energy used to live, she won't hear a door slam. She'll hear a gentle click, the sound of a man who knows when it's time to go. It might happen 3 days later or 3 weeks, sometimes longer, a message, a memory, a just thinking of you. Something casual yet calculated. The digital equivalent of a knock on the door you already closed. And here's the thing, it feels good. Of course it does. You're human. Her attention still has weight in your nervous system even after all the internal work. But this is your final test. Because the goal was never to make her come back. The goal was to become someone who doesn't need her to. When you began this journey, when she first ignored you, your emotional center was tied to her responses. Her affection validated you. Her silence haunted you. But now your validation lives in your own hands. And that's something you never knew you could build. Philosophers still wrestle with the concept of detachment, whether it means giving up desire entirely or simply loosening the grip. But in relationships, detachment isn't about being numb. It's about knowing you'll be okay either way. So when she reappears, you smile, not because you're winning, but because you're no longer losing yourself. You've become the man who doesn't flinch when a ghost from the past resurfaces. You don't need to teach her a lesson. You don't need to make her feel guilty. You don't even need to reply immediately. You just breathe and check in with yourself. Do I want this back or do I just miss the idea of being wanted? There's a real-world term for this: selective re-engagement. It's what emotionally healthy people do when the past knocks. They don't automatically open the door, they peek through the window, they check if what's knocking still fits the life they're building. And here's a quirky observation: people often want you back the moment you've truly moved on. It's almost like they can smell your detachment through the screen. Like they sense you've stopped trying to convince them, and now for the first time they have to convince you. But that's not the point anymore. You're not here to play emotional tennis. You're not counting points. You're not waiting by the net hoping she returns the serve. You're off the court, you're in the locker room, you're building the next version of yourself, and that man doesn't wait around hoping for a rematch. If you do respond, it's on your terms, from a place of clarity, not ego. And if you don't, that's okay too. Not out of pettiness, but because some chapters don't need epilogues. You've already learned what you were meant to learn. And the version of you who started this journey, the one staring at his phone in confusion and frustration, would be proud. Because now when she reaches out, you finally know that you don't need to reach back. Not unless it genuinely feels right. Not unless the story deserves a new page. And maybe, just maybe, it doesn't. So here you are now. Not chasing, not angry, not waiting. You're simply sitting with yourself, no longer demanding that someone else's attention complete the shape of who you are. And that's what growth really feels like, not loud, not victorious, but still quiet, clean. A soft exhale in a room that used to echo with overthinking. The phone isn't sacred anymore. The silence isn't threatening. Her return doesn't feel like salvation. It just is something that may or may not happen, something that no longer decides your worth. Because when you stop trying to control the outcome, you start to notice how much lighter you walk, how much freer your evenings feel, how much sweeter life becomes when you're not performing for an invisible audience. You begin to see beauty again, not in her attention, but in your own reflection. Philosophers say freedom is the absence of necessity. And maybe that's true here too. Maybe the most powerful position you can hold in any relationship is not needing it to work in order to feel whole. You don't need a dramatic goodbye. You don't need the perfect comeback. You don't need to win. You just need to walk steadily, softly in the direction of your own peace. And if she shows up again, you'll know. You'll know whether her energy fits the man you've become. You'll know whether it's a second chance or a final test. Either way, you're not afraid. You're not lonely. You're just moving forward. And somewhere quietly, the version of you that used to beg for replies finally rests. End of script. Have a beautiful day.